Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Warsaw's Royal Castle, devastated during World War II, stands today as a testament to resilience, civic pride, and cultural memory. Its 55th anniversary reconstruction marked the culmination of decades of planning, archaeological work, and public engagement, with citizens and historians playing a central role. Now, to discuss this pivotal chapter in Poland's history, we're joined now in the studio by Michał Przeperski, a spokesperson and historian at the Polish History Museum in Warsaw. Good to have you on TVP World. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
So let us go back into history. Now, I think just set the stage here of Warsaw's absolute destruction after the Second World War. So why, in particular, what many people don't know is the Royal Castle wasn't first on the list to be rebuilt, was it?
It was very much not the first on the list. It really is an interesting example of what was understood as Polish enough to be rebuilt, one can say. So the first wave of reconstruction was the late 40s and early 50s. Back then, Warsaw was literally destroyed, destroyed up to the bone. And the old castle, not the old castle, but the old town, the tenements of the old town were the first to be rebuilt, as the sort of, of a symbol of revival. And at the same time, as a very wise usage of tradition, showing that the newborn communist Poland actually is very much rooted in the history of certain traditions. And here comes the Royal Castle as a problem, because for many communist leaders, well, Royal Castle was a symbol of royalty, of nobility, of the whole class idea, and the whole class world that was that has been overcome by the communist revolution. And only it wasn't exactly in January 1971 when the decision was made by the Central Committee of the Communist Party, right after the power was seized by Edward Gierek after the December 1970, after the political turmoil in Poland. And Gierek was the man trying to show himself as, in a way, a better Pole, in the sense that he was trying to refer to the traditions that were, well, broadly understood as like really Polish, in the sense that the Royal Castle is something we really need, he said. And yeah, he was one can say brave enough, but wise enough at the same time, because it quickly turned out that really a lot of Poles, both within the boundaries of then communist state, and also the emigre, public intellectuals, emigre politicians, even including Jan Nowak-Jeziorański, for that matter, then the leader of Radio Free Europe, so very much in opposition towards communism. He was also in favor of that, stating that this is like something, a symbol that actually unites all the Poles, not really, and it's not really important whether a communist or not.
Yeah, and I think also it's such a gargantuan effort just to rebuild a city from scratch. We mentioned the tenements. I mean, that took a long time. The old town as well, that was kind of first in all this, and that slowly got together. And I remember reading that this actually was only really completed way back in the 80s, this old town.
No, 1984.
Yeah, so if you look at that also, and you wonder, now it's this beautiful architectural tour you can take for many visitors coming to Poland for the first time. But how does one rebuild a castle? I mean, there were no architectural blueprints. So what served as that? I'm trying to hint at a particular type of person here. How does one rebuild a castle?
Oh well, it's always a group effort, and it really took a long way towards reconstruction. It was. I mean, the very reconstruction of the Royal Castle was in a way similar to the reconstruction of the old town. I mean, there was no blueprint, and there were not enough photographs, but there were paintings.
Canaletto, right?
The Canaletto was instrumental in, but it was more important for the old town. It was also important, but maybe not that much important for the Royal Castle, one way or another. If it was not for the old artists, the old masters of late old Polish-Lithuanian European Commonwealth, there would be absolutely no chance to rebuild it. And you were very right in pointing out that it was only in 1984 when the Royal Castle was actually opened. I wouldn't like to call it in a full grandeur, because it's not enough. It's not enough to say. In a way, the reconstruction of the Royal Castle is still not finished, and it will never be finished, because there are some new very little tiny details that could be put in there. So this is sort of a story, sort of a way that must have been at some point initiated, but we will never reach the very end.
And also, I mean, looking at the fundraising efforts, I mean, I know that there was a particular society that was engaged with this. Tell us a bit also about how the civilian population, citizens in Warsaw, how all this came about to find the funding and to rebuild all this. This
really is very interesting, because we can look at it still. Let's remember that we still talk about the communist reality. So this is a reality of a non-democratic country, an autocracy, when the Communist Party is all over the place and really calling the shots in pretty much every move. And literally, what I'm trying to say is that there was no civil society, but there were some niches in which the civil society could have been somehow could have feel a sort of revival. And I may say that the whole movement behind fundraising and regarding funds for rebuilding the Royal Castle was some sort of really very lively undertaking in the 70s and in the 80s in Poland, not only in Warsaw, but because it was, Royal Castle was seen as a symbol for the whole Poland, and for all the people from all the layers of the social strata, I may say. So yeah, there was one thing, that there was an association responsible for really collecting the money, but there was also a huge effort as it comes to education. What do we need it for? What actually what important political, historical events took place in this very Royal Castle? And there were a bunch of them, including the very famous Constitution of the 3rd May 1791 and many others. Oh, by the way, I think that was also one more very instrumental reason for communists being really not very fond of rebuilding it. Before the Second World War, it was the residence of the president of the then the Republic of Poland. So this the country that they were trying to not really be a continuation of.
Yeah, I think also you mentioned here it's about symbolism. It's, I think, also symbolic in one part, which I always found fascinating. The clock tower itself, now that was significant. The time that they set it to, tell us a bit more, because once it was all done, when it was, let's say, reopened, as we've said it, there was a particular time that this clock tower was set to. What significance does that hold for Polish history?
Do I remember that it was the exact moment when the Royal Castle was bombed? So it must have been like September 1939. We really have to remember that still in September 1939, Warsaw was, literally the first city of that size, first capital city, to really suffer that heavily from this new order world, one can say. Not only the whole city was bombed, not only the military installations, but the Royal Castle as such, and the demolition of it. Was seen already then, and should be seen as really the crime of the highest grade, one of such. And yeah, you're very right that it also a very nice symbol. And I mean, there are many symbols behind it. And on one hand, we have to remember that it was really a nice way for communists to play it politically, including trying to play out some anti-German resentments, which were very understandably, still very live within the Polish society, still in the 70s and 80s. But on the other hand, I really like this whole aspect of, you know, very many individuals really very sincerely involved in you know, all this educational effort and very much in this fundraising effort. And I would really like to stress very much the role played by Polish emigre figures, not only the main people, but also, for example, Poles from the States, Poles from the UK, because you know, it was that symbol that really allowed for, let's say, rebuilding the sense of belonging, the sense of community between Poles from here and from there. And this is really that sort of symbol, which probably is even more important than just the, you know, mere fact of the decision made by the communists in January 1971.
And that was 55 years ago, but there's so much history in that castle. It's not just a place of ceremony, but also a museum, cultural icon that will be with us for many, many generations to come. Look, thank you so much for coming in, sharing that information. Our guest here today, Michał Przeperski. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.